Traveling is often seen as one of life's greatest adventures, an exhilarating journey filled with new experiences and discoveries. But beware, not every adventure is safe. For British travelers, certain destinations around the world come with serious risks, from political turmoil and armed conflict to the threats of kidnapping and terrorism. It's crucial to be aware of these dangers before you set off on your journey. In this video, we'll uncover some of the most dangerous places on the planet where British nationals should think twice before stepping foot. We'll delve into the physical perils and the emotional turmoil you might encounter in these regions, where the excitement of exploration can swiftly transform into a fight for survival. Are you ready to find out which places could turn your dream trip into a nightmare? Let's dive in. But wait, before we dive fully into this, take 2 seconds and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on our future amazing content, and hit the like button. 6 countries where UK citizens are not welcome in 2024 and 2025. 1. North Korea, the land of no freedom. Imagine arriving in Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, with its towering, rigid monuments, wide deserted streets, and cold, imposing architecture. The silence here feels eerie, as if the city itself is holding its breath. Every building, every monument has a story to tell, but you'll only hear the version the government allows. From the moment you step off the plane, you are under the watchful eyes of state-appointed guides, and even the air feels heavy with an invisible presence monitoring your every step. Your guide is not just a tour companion. They are your shadow, dictating what you see, what you learn, and even what emotions you should express. Want to visit a local market? That's not on the schedule. Feel like wandering down an alley to explore local life? Forbidden. Instead, your route is carefully planned, leading you through meticulously crafted displays of North Korean prosperity. But it's not the scenes in front of you that make the country so chilling. It's the absence of life behind the facade. The smiling faces of local children, waving at you in a perfectly staged manner, feel rehearsed, as if they are aware of consequences should they slip from the script. Your hotel, located on an island, feels more like a gilded cage. You can't leave without your guide. There's no access to the internet, no international phone calls, no way to communicate with the outside world freely. It's a strange sensation, like you've stepped back in time to a world entirely isolated from modern freedoms. And there's an unshakable feeling of paranoia. Taking pictures of monuments seems innocent until you realize that capturing the wrong angle of the great leader's statue could be seen as disrespectful. Imagine, the simple snap of a camera could lead to interrogation, or worse, indefinite detention. British travelers, viewed with suspicion due to the strained political relationship between the UK and North Korea, are particularly vulnerable. The rules are arbitrary, the penalties severe, and if things go wrong, the British government has limited influence. There's no room for error in North Korea. It's a place where curiosity can be dangerous, and the consequences for a small misstep are unimaginable. What starts as an adventurous trip to a forbidden land can easily turn into a nightmare that you can't escape. 2. Iran, a complex beauty wrapped in political tension. When you first set foot in Iran, the beauty is undeniable. The dazzling mosaics of Isfahan's mosques glisten under the sun, and the rolling desert mountains stretch toward the horizon, whispering ancient secrets of empires past. It feels like you've stepped into a living museum, a place where history and culture merge into something profoundly unique. As you walk through the bustling bazaars, the smell of spices and fresh bread fills the air, and the vibrant colors of Persian carpets seem to reflect the spirit of the people. But underneath this picturesque surface, there's an unspoken tension that follows you everywhere. You're aware, always, of the invisible rules guiding your every move. For a Westerner, especially a British traveler, there's a lingering sense that you don't entirely belong, and that your presence could attract unwanted attention. You'll notice the subtle looks of curiosity, even suspicion, and while most locals are warm and welcoming, Eager to share their culture, the shadow of Iran's political landscape hovers in the background. For women travelers, this tension is particularly palpable. The need to constantly adjust your hijab, making sure it covers your hair just right, becomes a mental burden. Every time you step into public view, you're aware of being watched, not by the locals, but by the enforcers of strict Islamic laws. Wearing a loose headscarf or clothing that's not modest enough could result in a fine or worse. And for couples, even something as innocent as holding hands in public is forbidden. The weight of these restrictions can be overwhelming, turning everyday moments into calculated risks. The unpredictability of Iran's political climate only adds to the tension. The British government warns about the risk of arbitrary arrest and detention, especially for dual nationals. Even something as simple as carrying certain literature or posting on social media can be seen as suspicious. It's not just about cultural differences. There's a real danger of becoming a pawn in a larger geopolitical game. The Iranian government has been known to detain foreign travelers, using them as leverage in global political disputes. Imagine enjoying tea at a local cafe, surrounded by the aroma of freshly brewed saffron tea, when suddenly you're approached by officials. A harmless conversation turns into an interrogation, and before you know it, you're being detained without explanation. The British consulate may be able to offer advice, but they're limited in what they can do. Days could turn into months of uncertainty, with no clear resolution in sight. That's the grim reality British travelers face in Iran, an emotional roller coaster between awe-inspiring beauty and the lurking danger of political tension. The question that lingers in your mind: is the charm of this ancient land worth the risk of becoming entangled in a web of uncertainty, suspicion, and potential peril? It's a delicate balancing act between fascination and fear, one that every traveler must weigh carefully before stepping foot into the heart of Iran. 3. Yemen, a country in crisis. Yemen was once a jewel in the crown of the Arabian Peninsula, where bustling markets thrived, ancient architecture stood tall, and the scent of spices and incense filled the air. Picture cities like Sana'a with its centuries-old buildings, their intricate designs telling stories of a rich past, or the coastal town of Aden, where the turquoise waters of the Arabian Sea kissed the shores. The endless golden deserts and towering mountain ranges make Yemen a land of stark contrasts and awe-inspiring beauty. But today, all of this is overshadowed by the haunting reality of a country torn apart by war. Since 2015, Yemen has been engulfed in a brutal civil war, leaving it broken, bleeding, and barely holding on. The once vibrant streets are now empty, marred by bomb craters and the ruins of what used to be homes, schools, and mosques. Families struggle just to survive, scavenging for food in markets that have little left to offer. Hunger is everywhere, and children, once full of laughter, now walk silently with hollow eyes, victims of one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. For a traveler, this is not the Yemen of ancient wonders and desert adventures. It's a country where stepping out of a car could mean walking into a war zone. Armed groups patrol the streets, each vying for control of different territories, and violence can erupt without warning. The thundering sounds of airstrikes can echo at any moment, and kidnappings of foreigners, especially Westerners, are frighteningly common. Even if you manage to avoid these dangers, basic necessities like clean water and health care are nearly impossible to find. Disease outbreaks, particularly cholera, sweep through the population, and with hospitals destroyed or abandoned, there's little hope for those who fall ill. Even aid organizations struggle to get resources into the country, blocked by political factions and the constant threat of violence. For British travelers, venturing into Yemen is not just risky. It could be a death sentence. The scars of war have turned Yemen into a place where even survival feels like a distant dream. The magic of the land is still there, but it's buried under the weight of suffering and chaos, making Yemen a place best left untouched until peace one day may return. Oh, and by the way, I know you're liking this video already. Go ahead right now and show me some love by hitting the like button. Done. Alright, let's continue. 4. Somalia. A pirate's paradise, but a traveler's nightmare. Somalia conjures up images of wide-open deserts, camels moving slowly across the horizon, and coastal waters once alive with traders and fishermen. Yet today, it's known for something far more sinister: piracy, lawlessness, and the omnipresent threat of violence. Somalia's civil war began in the 1990s, but unlike most conflicts, it never really ended. Decades of instability have left the country in a state of turmoil, where the rule of law is almost non-existent and danger lurks around every corner. For British nationals, stepping into Somalia is like entering a realm where normal rules no longer apply. Picture Mogadishu, a capital city that should be the beating heart of the nation, but instead feels more like a battleground. Buildings riddled with bullet holes stand as silent witnesses to years of fighting, and the streets, once lively and full of promise, are now patrolled by heavily armed militants. Foreigners, especially Westerners, are viewed not as visitors, but as targets. Al-Shabaab, an infamous militant group, has a firm grip on large parts of Somalia. They control territory, set up roadblocks, and plan attacks on anyone they see as a threat, including travelers. Bombings can happen without warning, and kidnappings are a constant risk. For a foreigner, walking through a Somali street is a nerve-wracking experience. Every glance feels like it might be from someone planning your capture. Every sound could be the start of an attack. Even if you somehow avoided direct violence, the lack of infrastructure makes survival difficult. There's no reliable health care, and law enforcement is practically non-existent. If something happens, whether a medical emergency or a robbery, there's no one to call for help. You're truly on your own in Somalia, navigating a world where piracy and militancy rule the land and sea. And it's not just the land that's dangerous. Somalia's pirates are infamous, capturing ships and holding entire crews hostage for ransom. The Gulf of Aden, once a vital trade route, is now one of the most dangerous waters in the world. For those daring enough to sail through, there's always the threat of heavily armed pirates storming their ship, turning a voyage into a nightmare of captivity and ransom negotiations. For any traveler, especially those from Britain, Somalia is a land where the risks far outweigh any sense of adventure. It's a place where survival is the primary concern, and every decision could mean the difference between life and death. 5. Libya, a land lost to chaos. Libya, a country once filled with hope after the fall of Gaddafi in 2011, has descended into a nightmare where chaos reigns. For a brief moment, Libyans dared to dream of a brighter future, a new era where freedom and democracy could take root. But instead, their dreams were shattered by the violent power struggles that erupted between rival factions. Today, the streets of Libya are haunted by the echoes of gunfire, and the uncertainty of what lies around the corner is a constant, suffocating presence. Imagine arriving in what seems like a beautiful country, with Mediterranean breezes and ancient ruins that speak of times long past. You may be tempted to explore the grandeur of Leptis Magna, a Roman city once considered the jewel of North Africa. The allure of such historical treasures, combined with Libya's stunning coastline, makes it a destination that could easily capture the heart of any traveler. But behind this picturesque facade lies a grim reality that could swallow you whole. As a British traveler, you would be stepping into a land where lawlessness prevails. The central government, if it can even be called that, has lost control, leaving militias and warlords to carve the country into pieces. Crossing the invisible boundaries between these territories means stepping into conflict zones without warning. One wrong turn could take you from a quiet neighborhood into the middle of a skirmish, where bullets fly indiscriminately, and you are nothing more than collateral damage. Kidnappings in Libya aren't rare. In fact, they are so common that Westerners, especially from countries like the UK, are viewed as walking prizes, high-value targets for militias looking to fund their causes. It's not just the fear of being kidnapped that should concern you. It's the complete collapse of basic services. Electricity flickers on and off unpredictably. Water shortages make daily survival a struggle. Hospitals, if you can find one still functioning, are overwhelmed or simply don't have the resources to help. Getting sick or injured in Libya can be a death sentence all on its own. For the adventurous spirit who might have once been enticed by the country's rich history, Libya today is a gamble far too dangerous to risk. Those ancient ruins and golden coastlines will have to wait for peace. As of now, stepping foot in Libya means accepting the very real possibility that you might never leave. 6. Afghanistan, a country in constant turmoil. Afghanistan's rugged beauty is the kind that takes your breath away. Towering mountains scrape the sky, while valleys cradle ancient cities that whisper of empires long gone. The land is rich with stories of heroism, of conquest, of cultures thriving along the Silk Road. But today, those stories are overshadowed by the harsh realities of war, terrorism, and a country caught in perpetual conflict. Since the Taliban's resurgence in 2021, Afghanistan has transformed from a place of rugged charm into a minefield, both literally and figuratively. For travelers, the sense of instability is palpable the moment you arrive. The streets, once bustling with traders and children playing in alleyways, are now marked by checkpoints, and the looming fear of what could happen next weighs heavily on everyone's shoulders. As a British traveler, you'll find yourself constantly looking over your shoulder. The fear isn't unfounded. Terrorist attacks are frequent, unpredictable, and often devastating. Bombs can go off in the heart of the city, in marketplaces, or even near foreign embassies. Foreigners, especially those from Western nations, are at the highest risk. Kidnappings for ransom are rampant, and the sheer lawlessness of the country means that if you're taken, there's little anyone can do to help. The UK government has limited capacity to intervene, and once you're in the hands of a militant group, the chances of rescue become slim. But it's not just the violence you need to worry about. Afghanistan's fragile political landscape means that even daily life can be a perilous endeavor. Since the withdrawal of Western troops, militant groups have filled the power vacuum, with different factions controlling various regions. You might be safe in one area one day, only to find it under siege the next. The unpredictability of this power struggle makes any form of travel a gamble with your life. And yet, amidst the danger, there's a quiet heartbreak for those who remember what Afghanistan once was. The ancient cities, with their crumbling forts and majestic mosques, now stand as silent witnesses to the chaos. The cultural richness that once defined this land is fading under the shadow of violence, and the idea of exploring these wonders is no longer just a dream deferred. It's a risk that few are willing to take. For now, the towering mountains of Afghanistan, with their snow-capped peaks and hidden valleys, will remain out of reach. The beauty of this land can only be admired from afar, for to enter is to gamble with forces far beyond your control. Thank you for joining us. If you found this information enlightening, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful content about cities and cultures from around the world.